All right. Thank you everyone for coming and as well as joining remotely. And I'm combining this session today with our weekly youth group session and the last mentoring session of the Perth retreat, which is conducted by Mahatero. And in the Perth retreat, I have been doing this mentoring session from 4 to 5 per time. In that, we have discussed starting from the very basic, starting from the meaning of mindfulness and how one will, by keeping the mindfulness to the fore, evolution of the mindfulness happen to firmly enter into the path. Right. So today, what I'm going to do is to give a summary of what we have discussed in the last 6 days. This is the 7th day, last 6 days. Yes. So I think it will be beneficial for the youth group as well to refresh what we have been discussing now for years. The first one, going back to day 1, what we agreed was that mindfulness is, if you say in 2 words, choiceless awareness. So this choiceless awareness, according to the teaching of the Buddha, is the choiceless awareness of the self right here, right now. And it is a bit difficult for a beginner to straight away come to that state, to start observing self right here, right now. So therefore, we have, Buddha has introduced a technique of labeling to get to the rhythm, to get going. And by using that technique, what we do is we try to firmly establish the techniques that we are using to be mindful. The techniques that we are using to be mindful are, as we know, mindful walking and mindful sitting. So what mindful walking and sitting does is, it allows you to achieve right here and right now, right? So that is not easy. So by labeling, when you are walking, by labeling walking, 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 when you are breathing, by labeling in, and out, 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 you will be able to be with whatever is happening in this particular moment, whatever you are trying to focus, if I may say, in the particular point in time. So when you do this labeling, we discuss that labeling has to be always in accordance, with the definition of here, now, I am. In other words, that labeling has to be introvert and the labeling has to be passive, right? So when you walk and when you do your sitting, that is easy. You can say walking, walking, so it's your walking activity. When you observe the respiration, you can say in, and it is right here, right now, in this particular point in time. But when you other variables which are not allowing you to bring the attention to what you are trying to bring the attention to, which we call disturbances sometimes. There you will have to be careful in labeling, right? The disturbances are basically either sounds or thoughts or aches and pains. When you are walking, it may be even visuals, right? So when you label these things, if it is a visual, you will be labeling it as seeing rather than looking, or rather than sight, right? When you are hearing something, you will be labeling it as hearing rather than listening or a sound. Similarly, for the other disturbances as well, you select a word that is introvert and that is passive. So that way, you will be able to be within the definition of observation of here now I am, right? So with that, when you practice for some time and if you feel now you are with whatever is happening, then this labeling can be dropped and you can be an observer. Being an observer is the entry to the mindfulness, right? So not just an observer, you will be keeping that observation in the driving seat. And therefore the Blessed One says, it has to be, mindfulness has to be to the fore. Mindfulness should be in front, right? Mindfulness should be leading your observation. And also Buddha says it is not just leading or keeping to the fore, and it always should have reference to the head office, which is the body, right? So therefore, that is the assembly point which Lokohamduro says, anytime if you, when you have the attention to the body, when you have the focus to the body, no matter what happens, then you will be closer to the experience rather than mental fabrications and mental process or the perceptions that may come up. So even if the other things, thoughts are coming up, as soon as you become aware of the thoughts, you can see how being aware of thoughts affect your physical process, so that you always will be with the physical and mental process, and how the mental process affect the physical process and how the physical process affect mental process, you will start observing over time. So in this manner, when you get the grip of mindfulness, or when you really become mindful, you will know you will have only 4 corners or 4 stages or 4 places, which Blessed One says foundation, that you can be mindful of, right? No matter what it is, it will fall into any of these 4 categories. It may be mindfulness of the body, it may be mindfulness of feeling, it may be mindfulness of the mind, or it may be mindfulness of the phenomenon. So when you get used to being mindful of whatever is happening, and if you get used to be mindful of these 4 things, then your entire physical and mental process is open. Now it is not closed, lid is open, right? So you see whatever is going within you now. Is there anything good going within you? No. When you become mindful, all what you see is garbage, 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 garbage coming out. Right? But when we start the practice, we think all blissful things will happen, all golden things will happen, all precious things will happen. Nothing of that sort. Only, I don't want to use the word that Lokohamduro is using, is happening. Right. So those who have corrupted minds will laugh. Right. So only you will see only those things. Right. So and that gives a very good indication that you are mindful. Now you will keep complaining that my mindfulness is not going well and I can't focus, and so many thoughts are coming, so many aches are there, and my head is like, devil's workshop, which means mindfulness is working at its best, right? Your physical and mental process is now visible to yourself, which has been there ever since you were born, or even before, even in the previous lives, you had never seen. Now, since you are mindful, you can see, right? So that means now your mindfulness faculty is developed. And this is what Lokohamduro said today. And one of the, I think Brian Visser, somebody had, I'm not usually giving those examples, He is showing 4 characteristics that are being developed. One is mindful, one is self-criticism and fault finding, pedantic, and perfection. And those 4 things will develop when you are mindful, right? So that's a sign that mindfulness, new spiritual faculty, or not new spiritual faculty, mindfulness spiritual faculty is working, right? So, and that gives you another opportunity to be mindful. That opportunity is to be mindful of this chaotic situation. Accept that your system is chaotic. Accept that you are in a mess. Accept that you feel like in devil's workshop, right? So when you accept that, in Balakatha, Sariputta Swami Vahanse says, Vikittena na kampatiti satibala, right? You are utterly confused, right? Utterly, what do you call, shattered in the mind. But you are very firm. You are not wavering. You don't have a wavering mind. You have a very firm mind, and you accept the fact that your mind is shattered. Accept the fact that you are confused, right? So by doing that, you are accepting yourself. Your physical and mental process, you are accepting. So if you don't accept yourself, there is nobody else is going to accept you. So that's the empowering that the Blessed One is gradually giving us. He is giving us, he's bringing this human quality to accept yourself and take charge of yourself, right? So by taking charge, Sariputta Swami Vahanse says, Maharatan Vahanse says, that it is not now a mindfulness faculty, spiritual faculty, it becomes a spiritual power. So these situations, usually we start crying, we start complaining, we start filing cases, and we start giving up practice, and we start going for other teachers, we start changing the practice, and all sorts of things will be done. Or sometimes even you will give up Buddhism and become Muslim or born again, right? But that much it may be distracting. But if you are a person who is keeping the mindfulness to the fore and you will accept the situation, by accepting this situation, what you will simply do is you give more power to you. So it becomes a power of mindfulness. Vikittena na kampati iti satibala. In this manner, when you improve your spirituality, and there are 4 other spiritual faculties, right, which are at the same time competing, right? When this happens, you will, because you are practicing so much, and your usual faith faculty may be getting neglected, right? When the faith faculty is getting neglected, and when you are more towards mindfulness, which means your wisdom faculty is rising its head. So these 2 will start fighting. These 2 will start fighting, and you will have to, do all the rituals, and then only you will have to do mindfulness, and you have been going to temple, and you have been doing this, that, and all that. Now you don't do anything of those things. You stay at home, or you straight away go to the temple and go to a corner and meditate. That's not the way that you will have to do, and all sorts of things. Nobody else will tell you, but your mind will be the person nagging you all the time. Just stop mindfulness for some time, but do other things as well. So the faith faculty will be at work. And sometimes the wisdom faculty will be at work as well. And it will say, try to find a shorter cut, try to find a faster way. And there are so many other discourses. Why don't we do those things? And all those things will come up, not from anywhere, from your own mental process, because the spiritual faculties are awakening now. These things that have been hidden within you, will start surfacing, right? So this way, your faith faculty and wisdom faculty may start fighting. Similarly, your energy faculty as well as the concentration faculty also in the same way will be fighting, right? And you may feel sometimes you are completely with your body, and when your attention is completely with the body, and you will start just slouching down, and your head will just drop down, and you will be totally bending to the floor, right? So that is because you have become too much concentrated to the body, and energy is lacking to be mindful of this, mindful of the fact that the mind is in the body. Sometimes you energize yourself too much and disturb the concentration. So these things will happen. When these things will happen, when these things will start fighting, again, it is the job of the mindfulness, because it has developed now to a stage of power, and it starts, since it is a very unbiased character, it is not having anything vivid, it is not having anything attractive, it is not having anything charismatic, right? So therefore, this independent, unbiased character will be accepted by the other four factors. And it will allow this character to lead. How it will lead is simply when the faith faculty is strong, he will be aware that my faith faculty is strong. When the wisdom faculty is strong, he will be aware that the wisdom faculty is strong. And those things will not come as faith faculty and wisdom faculty. They will be simply thoughts. So you will be aware that this is another thought, right? So when you are just falling down, bending down, you will energize yourself to see that you are bending down. So that way, you will balance these things. And when you, how that balancing happens is through the mindfulness once again. It is a stronger mindfulness. It's power of mindfulness that is at work. So when that happens, mindfulness will take the lead of all the spiritual faculties. So therefore, the mindfulness now evolved into the seventh stage, which is mindfulness as a factor for enlightenment. So when the mindfulness becomes a factor for enlightenment, it is the first one. Mindfulness is Sati, Sambojjhanga is the first Sambojjhanga, because all other things have given the leadership to this, and this mindfulness is the president. So when he is the president, the other things are gradually developing from that. Dhammavichaya is developing, arising from Sati Sambojjhanga, and from Dhammavichaya, Virya Sambojjhanga arise. From Virya Sambojjhanga, Priti Sambojjhanga arise. From Priti Sambojjhanga, Passaddhi Sambojjhanga arise, so on and so forth. It goes on to Upekha. So therefore, I'm reminding once again, all this will happen only when you keep the mindfulness to the fore. It is not just keeping mindfulness to the fore, you let anything happen and just keep observing. So therefore, the observation keeps continuing. When the observation keeps continuing, irrespective of whether you are with the main object or otherwise, mindfulness turns into clear comprehension. Then it becomes not only clear comprehension led by mindfulness, which has evolved into factors for enlightenment. And mind you, there are no signposts, right? It will not tell you that you have the mindfulness faculty developed now, here is the certificate, and this is the power of mindfulness, here is the certificate. No graduation as such, right? So only from the report, teacher will see that it is progressing. And sometimes you also see a change in yourself. The way that you look at your practice and the way that you think, you may observe has changed. So when it is developed to this stage, then you start seeing, since you are equanimous, then you will start seeing nothing has changed. Everything else is as it is. You still have the same sensual desire. You still have the same irritation. You still have the same sloth and torpor. You still have the same agitation. You still have the same suspicious mind. And similarly, you still are with the breath and the feelings and the perceptions and mental volitions and consciousness. Those things are still at work in the same way. Still, you will see your sensual faculties are working in the same way. There is no change. But only change is, if you appreciate mindfulness, you are able now to see the processes of all these things. You will see that your sensual desire arises and stays for some time and passes. And similarly, you will see your sense faculties will be at work. It goes to a form and creates a story and stays up for some time and then vanishes. You start seeing processes of things. By seeing those things, when your mindfulness is heightened to that level, you call it mindfulness of the phenomena, Dhammanupassana, right? So your Dhammanupassana is developing to an extent where you observe the fact, you observe the arising of enlightenment factors as well as their destruction. All the 7 enlightenment factors, you will say, okay, I have Sambhojjhanga, now I don't have any Sati Sambhojjhanga, it's gone. And similarly, Dhammavichaya, I can dig deep into the things in my body. Last couple of weeks, I did not have anything. But you are not worried. All what you do is now observation, and your equanimity getting more and more and more strong. So when you keep on practicing, which we call Bahulikata, when you keep on practicing your mindfulness in this manner, what happens is, at one or the other stage, since your mindfulness is so sharp and asammutta, which means solid mindfulness, you will see things are arising and passing away. Things are arising and passing away. May it be form, may it be your breath, may it be your walking, may it be your feelings, whatever arise and pass away only, you will observe. You simply keep observing that. And when you keep on doing that, as we discussed yesterday, hopefully, it will come to a point, which Lopamdru mentioned that even today, it comes to Jnatancha Jnanancha Ubho Vipassana, which means you see the object disappears and even the mind that is observing it disappears. So, Jnatancha Jnanancha Ubho Vipassana, which means 2 things disappears at the same time, right? The object that you are observing disappears, and the mind that was observing that is also disappearing, because you don't do any mental volitions now. Only thing you do is you simple observation. So therefore, new volitions are not arising. So the arising gradually ceases. Whatever is arisen, now you see passing away. You see only passing away. So when this aggravates, when you still keep the mindfulness very strong and firm, it will come to a point you will see passing away, and it will be complete dissolution, complete explosion. You may observe at one or the other point. So that's when those things happen, and there are a few other things that may happen on the way. There are a few other signs that may be there when you reach to this point. That is a good sign that you are firmly on the path. Nothing achieved, but it's a good sign that you are firmly on the path. So everybody here, from the reports that you have given, and from the discussions that we have had in the last 6 days, everybody is in the path. Everybody is in the path, and only thing you will have to do is you will have to keep appreciating the fact that you see these things since you are mindful. That's number one. Your mindfulness should get appreciated, right? Because most of the time our mind tries to either select or to go for concentration instead of observation, right? So you have to ensure that my job is simply to observe and appreciate that observation. If these two things are there, you will go further in the practice. So what I have done so far is given the summary of what we discussed in the last 6 days. So with that, I'm happy to open the floor for discussion to whoever who is in Zoom, as well as those who are present here. Yes. Chatu, if you have any question there, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, we can take questions from here. Yes.
And it has to be supported by Sarda video and Samadhi.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for instance, I can go very mindfully.
Yeah.
And stab somebody straight in the heart.
Yeah, just give me a second. Do you have your phone, telephone? Is anyone with the telephone and having Zoom as well? Okay. If you have connection, you can bring it. Oh, I have my one. Do you have connection? Yeah. Just give me a second so that you can talk to that. No, just give me a second. You can talk to it.
Nobody can see your face. No video is on.
Yeah.
So they are just can hear.
I was sort of thinking with Sati, it's like the balance of power.
Yeah.
It's sort of in the center. But then I feel that it has to be supported by Sarda and Virya from one side, and from the other side, Samadhi and Prajna. Because otherwise, it might, if you give focus only to mindfulness to that extent, it can lead you to danger as well. For instance, I can very mindfully go and stab somebody exactly in the heart. But I would put the stop sign just before I do that, because I've got Sarda, his teachings. So therefore, I know if I do that, it's dukkha, samsaric dukkha. So I won't do that then. And then I would take virya, put that stop sign right there, for whatever situation. And then we're not traveling this path, like the mindfulness path, automatically your mind gets calmer and calmer and calmer. And then the Dhamma Vicaya, like for instance, Dhamme Dhammanupassī viharati atapi sampajano sattima vinedoke abhijja domanassa. So then this prajna takes over and tells the path, the truth, the Buddha's teaching, the Dhamma. And then you find combined mindfulness with the other for supporting mindfulness. I think you might be on the right path then. What do you think of it?
Yes. Okay, good question.
Have you tested this?
I'm okay with this in the sense, I sit down the next day, there's something in my mind.
Yeah.
My back is killing me. I just want to get up and go.
Yes.
Get out, get out, get out. So it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's.
Then the Sarda comes. I remember how Buddha would tell Ananda. Ananda, my back is like a dried up, rotten trunk of a tree. But yet he continued walking for 30 miles and whatever, teaching the Dhamma. And I said, can be showed with the very music.
Mm.
Music, Sapa comes into the picture.
Mm.
That keeps me stationed there.
Yeah.
And with the video comes because I'm determined now. No, I won't touch from here. But if it feels like that, I'm going to stay.
Yeah. So you're talking too much and you will have to give this phone again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Otherwise you can't hear.
What I'm saying, I forget as well. Yeah. So where should I start? Yeah. So then the Saddha and the Virya from one side helps me. And the Samadhi, because you're mindful all the time, you're focused. Yoni so manisika, you're focused. And then the Samadhi, your mind gets calm. So then you forget the body also in the meantime. The mind has become calm in the process. And then the prajna takes over. And so I think it's all, the other two are supporting mindfulness all the time so that we are on the right path. But otherwise with mindfulness, you can go on a wrong path as well.
Okay. No, thank you for that comment. The simple question I asked was whether you have tested what you said, right? Because of the example you gave. The first example you gave was stabbing somebody. And then when I asked the question, the example that you're giving is something that Lord Buddha has told Ananda, right? These two examples are not compatible. It's not comparing apples with apples, right? Why I'm saying is, when you talk about the crust of the question is mindfulness alone can't do things, but you need to have the other two faculties. Yes. What the Blessed One says is in the Mindfulness and Clear Comprehension Sutta, if you are not mindful, you will not have what you call moral shame and moral fear. If you don't have moral shame and moral fear, you will not restrain your faculties, sense faculties. No, I'm answering now. If you don't have if you don't restrain the faculties, you will not be virtuous. If you are not virtuous, you will not go to the right concentration, right? So this is why I asked whether you tested it. And the example you gave was is a good example, but it is not Saddha or Virya coming into the picture. There is something called Katin Katancha, right? So when you practice those things that Blessed One has told and the things that we have learned from our discourses and things like that will come in and energize us, right? So therefore, that is why the two examples are different. And coming back to the fact that the other two has to support, right? When you take the first example, why Buddha is giving that virtue is led by mindfulness is because a lot of people are observing self, right? But they don't appreciate that they are observing self, right? So that appreciation has to come for you to be virtuous. And in one of the suttas, what the Blessed One says is to one of the Brahmin, Silavantasa panyo, panyavantasa silo, natti panyo, natti silo, natti panyo. Right? So which means being virtuous in itself is part of wisdom. So if you become virtuous through mindfulness, right? What you really do is appreciation of your virtue. And through the appreciation of virtue, only you will be able to have a clear mind. So this is why in Rathavinita Sutta it says, purification of virtue leads to the purification of the mind, and so on and so forth. It goes on to the realization, the site of the realization as well. And if someone is mindful, if someone is keeping the mindfulness to the fore,
we don't have any question about his faith. Absolutely no question about his faith. Why I am saying that is because Buddha said, if you really in the scope of the Father, I exactly don't remember the English terms, Piyage Shestraya. If you are in Piyage Shestraya, that is scope of the Father, then you will be secured. There is no problem for you. What is the scope of the Father? 4 foundations of mindfulness. Right? And then Buddha says, if someone sees me, he sees Dhamma. If someone sees Dhamma, he sees me. Right? So, which means once again, the equation is 4 foundations of mindfulness is Dhamma. 4 foundations of mindfulness is Buddha. So, do we have a question of the faith? We absolutely no question of the faith. If you keep the mindfulness to the 4, it will take only to these 4 places. Right? So when one is practicing, he has faith. And one who has faith, as per the Chanki Sutta that Lokohamdro is discussing now, one who has faith, if he's trying at least, if he at least thinking that I should practice mindfulness, that itself is the energy. Chandang Janeti is the start of virya. So, I mean, intellectually we can say this and that has to happen. All these things happen if you keep the mindfulness to the 4. Because what we directly touch is Buddha and Dhamma. So there is no need for us to worry about other things. Buddha has done everything and told us, keep the mindfulness to the 4. I will do it in 7 days or in 7 years. And at the very beginning, he says, this is the one and only way for the purification of beings. So there is no need for us to plant, water, look after, manure, anything else. They are there. They are there. You let it talk to me.
You asked me for it.
Because then you still have Sarda in the Buddha, because it's stated the 4 foundations of mindfulness is Buddha's teachings. So therefore, the Sarda comes supporting mindfulness so that you're on the right mindfulness.
Yeah, so
yeah, so when you take mindfulness as your path, there is no need. I'm not saying Saddha is not there. What I'm saying is don't worry about the other 4 faculties. Don't worry about other 4 faculties because they are developed enough. That is why you have got this. And they were developed not now. When we were born, they were developed enough. When we were born, they were developed enough, but we never used them. And that is why we were born into Buddhist families in Sri Lanka. But what did we do? Including myself. Till I became 36, I was just a wild boy. Just ask Kitsiri. He will know all about me. Right? So, right. So, I mean, we will have to just start appreciating mindfulness and give due chance, because we have been pampering other faculties too much. It is still happening 99.9% in Sri Lankan Buddhists. They have only Saddha, and monks have only Saddha to give puja. And people never go from there. And there are, as you know, there are 2 types of right view. One is what do you call it? Spiritual, and the other is mundane, right? And we are talking only about dana. That was not there during Buddha's time with some sects. So therefore he said, There are certain things that you will have to do. And our temples are sticking only to those things. They don't go beyond dana. They don't go beyond puja.
But what I feel is like if one gives sati the balance of power, so it is balance. It won't let you go to sadhana and do puja like a kovil, like a Hindu thing. Nor will it go into too much of prajna with intellectual, analyzing all the time. So the mindfulness plays a very important role because it is balancing.
It is well.
But at the same time, it has to be Buddha's teachings of mindfulness.
Yeah, I mean, there is no mindfulness.
Yeah, except in this world today, everything is mindfulness of everything. So that should be something.
No, it is the, you're right in some sense. Some people, there are two things in there. One is, for some people, mindfulness is the technique. What is mindfulness? Sit and cross-legged and observe breathing. That is how they have been told to observe the body's sensation. That is how they have been told. For some other people, I forget the other one. For some other people, they are being taught the right mindfulness. It is just observation, but to achieve something, to achieve this, to achieve that. But Buddha's mindfulness is mere observation. You have no expectation. Is no expectation to the extent what Loku Hamdro says is kayancha jivitancha anapekkita hoti. You don't even have expectation of your body and life when you keep on observing. Even if you feel that this is getting dissolved and this is getting exploded, you simply observe that as well. And for such, and Lord Buddha has brought this to the world to go to that extent. But now we are using it for all unwanted nonsense in Brisbane, West End. This is for you, Steve. There is a restaurant which gives mindful beer drinking, and also internet, and also in internet there is mindful sex as well. It is I'm not saying we can't do those things, but our society is using mindfulness to optimize the pleasure, whereas Lord Buddha, as we discussed yesterday, when we see this disappearing, we change our viewpoint of permanence, we change our viewpoint of pleasure, we change our viewpoint of self. Instead, these guys are trying to establish those things using the wrong technique. So I have been contesting very silently with some people. The wholesale teaching of mindfulness will create some issues, some vacuum, some mess in the world unless it is taught to lead to Nibbana. Because when it becomes a problem, we will not be alive. Because all these people are practicing mindfulness to achieve this end and that end. But once it is in your body, no one has control. But they are trying to, increase their bottom line. They are trying to increase their memory capacity. They are trying to improve their, labor efficiency. But mindfulness is asking you to go somewhere else, which they don't know. So who is going to give medication to that? We won't be there then, but the world will sink into a very dangerous black hole. Yes, sir. These people are raising hand for some time. I'll give them. Yes, Chatu, over to you.
Hansika has a question.
Yes, madam.
Bande, I have a question. I never asked this question actually. I've experienced that for years. When I do sitting meditation, I can't focus on the breath. I have to always focus on the abdomen movement. That's because I sort of feel there's a pain in my nostril after a while. Is that normal?
I mean, there is nothing abnormal in mindfulness. So what I hear is that you will be able to observe at the entrance of the nostril, and then you get a pain and therefore you prefer going to the abdomen. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So now I
So-
stopped focusing on the breath. I go straight to the abdomen now.
Yeah. Answer is yes and no. It is okay because since you find it convenient to you, and still the practice is going on without any issue as such, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is no, because if you feel some sort of a pain in the nostril, so which means your attention is firmly in the body now. So mindfulness is observation. We don't care what we observe. So long as it is in our physical process or mental process, we keep observing. So therefore it is no. Right? So suppose when you get some other pain, when you're observing the abdomen, you get some other pain, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
And definitely you are going to get the pain even there. There will have very strong pains coming from there. So what I would suggest is, no matter where you take your attention to start the process, but when you get a pain, you go with that. Until it becomes prominent and exaggerated, you keep observing the abdomen as long as possible. But when the pain takes over, you quietly shift your attention to the pain and observe the pain from there. Because when you observe your breath, what happens is your breath disappears. Your breath disappears when the job that the breath is supposed to do has been done. The job that the breath is doing is taking your attention to the body. And if your attention to the body is there, you will feel pain only. Right? So it is progressing, but you're crying.
Yep.
Make sense, or do you have
Makes
any?
sense. Yes. Yes.
All right.
No.
Very
So
well.
should I then continue with the breath instead of the abdomen? No.
Even the abdomen is breath only. Without breath, the abdomen, rise and fall of the abdomen will not happen.
No. I get that.
Yeah.
It's a different sort of a focus when you're breathing in the.
Yeah.
So should I
Touching.
just not experience? Should I be aware and go back to breathing, or should I just?
I mean, whatever convenient to you.
Okay.
Whatever convenient to you. My request is, no matter what happens, you simply observe. Yeah, I'm just reminding everybody that we have a 5-day residential retreat, and ask you guys to register if anyone is coming, and hope you have seen the advertisement because it is filling up very fast.
Okay.
Right. And thank you so much. And if you have no questions, then yes.
Sorry.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
It's I don't know where I should start my question from, but maybe it's quite personal for me. Okay. When I was meditating, like a few days before, I was quite scared because I don't know how I should explain this, but I felt like something about death. I guess it could be about my past life. It could be either death or suffering I have undergone like in my past life. But I think I've noticed something similar in which it may be happening in my current life about like scary deaths. So I was so scared and didn't know what to do.
Okay, did this happen when you practice or?
Yeah, when I was meditating.
Okay, so when you're meditating, what did really scare you?
Like, when I was when my eyes were closed, I've seen like I've especially seen like red colors.
Yes.
Personally, I interpreted as blood.
Okay. Okay, so now it makes sense. This is how our mind is making stories. This is
Okay.
how, let me put it this way.
Okay.
This is how, what do you call, Harry Potter series came into being.
Huh?
There will have some slight thing appearing in our mind, some sign. And
Mm.
on that sign, we keep on adding more and more and more and spices, sugar, fertilizer, and
Yep.
then snowballs. And
Mhm.
then we talk about our past life and the future life, and I was killed and I killed and all sorts of, these are stories made by the mind.
Okay.
Why it is happening is this mind was used to roam around the universe and there was no problem. Now the mind, we have brought our mind, we are trying to bring our mind to the body, and the mind is not having that varietal entertainment. So then it is trying to create things for you. And that is because your mind is open now. Your mental process is open to you.
Yep.
Right. So when the mental process is open to you, no, irrespective of whether it is red colors or your own death, doesn't matter. You simply be aware of it. You simply observe it. And there is no need to make any interpretations, analysis, and the classifications of that. It is just red thing that appeared in your practice. You observe that, you label it as aware, or you label it as seeing. That's all. Right. This past life things and all that is something that fabrications that the mind is doing. And these things are coming because your practice is going in the right direction. You have really caught the mind. The mind has lost its usual base, and it is trying to create havoc in your mental process. And this is why we have the discussion. Right? So you will have to keep in your mind, your job is, no matter what comes, no matter what becomes prominent, it may be difficult to observe, but you will have to learn to observe continuously. And that will not happen over time. It will happen over some time when you continue your practice. And at the same time, you will have to discuss as well when these type of things are happening.
So
Any
are you telling me like not to take too much for it when I meditate?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. You are not thinking too much about it, right?
Mhm.
It is happening, right? So when it is happening, you are identifying yourself with it, and you get scared.
Yeah.
That is because you have lost the opportunity to be mindful. If you were,
Yes, I remember you've been telling me like what opportunity is.
yeah. So when, as soon as you see it is red, if you label it as seeing, or knowing, or red, which is not the right labeling anyway, then you straight away jump into mindfulness with that. Or when it is making the story, you let the mind to make the story, because that is mind's job. And your job is to see the movie that the mind is making. Then identify yourself with it. Now you have identified yourself with it, and you said, I was scared and I saw my past life and all that.
Yep.
You are given some value to it. So this is the opportunity. I mean, we will not be straight away able to
stop the mental processes. Mental processes will happen.
Mhm.
Let it happen, but we will try to bring mindfulness to the fore as much as possible, which will take care of the rest. Make sense?
Yep. Oh, yes. You broke it down so easily for me.
Peruan Saranai.
Everyone saw them. Thanks, Bante.
Let them. Yeah. Just give the way. You can go in. Or if you want, you can stay here as well. I don't mind. All right. Thank you. I'm not the chief monk anyway. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Right. Any questions from here? Yes. Sorry.
And I was going to ask about this wrong mindfulness, the way that mindfulness was discussed earlier, for wrong reasons and right reasons. And so I was thinking, if someone's mindfulness is introvert, can it be a bad one? If it is extrovert only, this kind of bad things happen. So that's the question I had in my mind. Like we discussed earlier, like the mindfulness, if it is not guided by the other faculties, may lead to some wrong paths and so on. So is that only happening when the mindfulness is to achieve some external objects or targets?
Yeah. Let me rephrase the question. So what you are trying to understand is mindfulness will be dangerous when it is not really meant for Nibbana. Is that what you are trying to say, or?
I don't want to use the word Nibbana.
Yeah.
I just want to say it is about yourself.
Yes. Okay. To realize Dhamma, or to bring that attention to the body.
About the body and mind.
No. Then when you are mindful, attention anyway comes to the body. That is the problem. Mindfulness means bringing attention to the body. When you bring the attention to the body, you become very efficient because you don't waste your energy, you conserve your energy. And that short-term efficiency, business world is trying to use to their advantage. That's the danger. So this is why I'm using the word Nibbana, because it is for Nibbana, whether one likes or not, right? Why we keep mindfulness to the fore, not just mindfulness, why we keep mindfulness to the fore is for Nibbana. So unless you have at one or the other point, you turn your attention to Nibbana, maybe you have started without any knowledge of Buddhism, and you understand from the practice by being mindful is very, very least frictional path, and then I should continue this as a recluse, then he will be turning into the right path. But if someone is not changing his mind, right? Because we can't guarantee just because you are mindful that everybody will come out of the sensual world and go in the spiritual path. And their attention, I have met people like that. There was one person in Brisbane, she was a Catholic, and she practiced, and practice developed in 2 years to a level beyond imagination. And of course, our Buddhist people who have been practicing for years have not achieved those experiences. But this woman achieved. And she did it just the way Loku Hamdruwa and I was telling. And at a certain point, she got scared. And she started thinking, I had to tell her, you give up your life and give your body to the Blessed One, then Dhamma, and then keep your practicing. Your practice is going so well. And then all of a sudden she dropped from our group. And usually when someone drops from the group, after about 1 month, 1.5 months, I just give a call and see how things are going, depending on the experiences they have been talking. And I called this woman as well, and she said, no, my son is in grade 12 and I will have to take her to classes because she's a single mother. We'll take her for classes and all sorts of things. I said, fair enough. So you can, relax the practice a little bit for that. And after about 4 or 5 months, she all of a sudden called, I was not ordained then, then I asked what happened. And she said, no, you said all these things and my practice was going like this, and always I was getting this experience. So I thought to myself, why should I give my life to Buddha? I give my life to Jesus instead, and start praying and all that. And she has changed it. And therefore she could not cope because she was not directing the way it should be directed. Why I am saying it is wrong is, other teachings are having only a physical and verbal level of spirituality, whereas Buddhism is having the mental level of spirituality. So once you go to the mental level, when you are in an express train, you can't keep your foot on a foot bicycle. Either you'll have to come to the express train or you get down and go to the foot bicycle. Right? But when you are in the mind, you can't go to a foot bicycle. And you have the faster train and you'll have to go with the train. So therefore, being mindful, that is why I said it will create a vacuum one day. When it is, given to the general community, I don't think very much in Sri Lanka because we have the environment and they will have supportive factors, but in other societies, because we know most of because as Dr. Hamdro says, they are using mindfulness as a medication. Most of the problems in the Western world are created by medication. And this medication also will create a problem. And that day we won't be alive. Unless they use it for mindfulness. Yes.
What about chitte chittanupassana? Yeah, we are applying sati to the chitta. So it's not just the body, the chitte chittanupassana. So it's the nama rupa, both things are involved.
So can you, what's the point that? Maybe the point.
What I was trying to say is like, it's not like when you're applying mindfulness, it's not necessarily only to the body, because you go beyond that, not to chitta,
Yes.
the mind itself.
Yes.
So that's what I was trying to say.
So that's the danger I'm talking as well.
But it could be the chitta can be for yoniso manasikara, the good
All
thing.
that is good. All that is good. But why are they practicing mindfulness?
That's different to Buddha's followers.
This is what I'm saying. This is the vacuum that we created by using mindfulness for each and everything. Yes. No, you can't.
අවසරයි වන්දේ. What will happen to Satipasala kids?
I don't know. In Sri Lanka.
And say outside, in Sri Lanka, if they are not able to come to become a Buddhist, what will happen?
The exact question I in my mind. I was talking about thinking about the kids who are not Buddhist coming to Satipasala. How can we actually give the mindfulness to them? How can we describe?
They are in the right place, they are with the right people at the moment. And when they develop, now, I'm not going very far. I'll take your example. And he has been practicing mindfulness on his own, and his practice has developed. And he did not have any advice until he asked his father, and then father contacted me. He has been receiving advices from the internet, right? So all misinterpretations had come, right? But in so far as Satipasala kids are concerned, it's a different story. It's they are with you guys. At least you are practicing for Nibbana. So you won't directly tell that we will take you to Nibbana, but you will give the next right step. Right. But what I'm talking is, in USA, someone in schools, they are doing mindfulness. And if a kid is developing mindfulness, and of course, this is not very much applicable for kids, it is applicable for adults. Because kids, they will realize, parents are playing fool. Now, this is the best thing. I should find a way to improve this. And they will, I asked this question in the mindful conference last time. They did not understand the question. The policymaker of, mindfulness policymaker of UK, he came and gave a big story. And he was saying people are leaving workplaces because the workplaces are toxic. Then I asked him, are the workplaces toxic, or the workplaces were anyway toxic? Sorry, was it toxic? Yes. Anyway, and since they were mindful, they started seeing it. They could not understand the question, and he was telling some nonsense. I mean, what Buddha says is dukkha is a noble truth. When you become mindful, you see dukkha. And when you see dukkha, you will have to teach that person, you will have to go through this. But since they don't have that in their agenda, they see that the people are moving, labor turnover is high. It's not that the labor turnover is high. They have not been given the right thing. If they give the right thing, they will try to maintain the equipoised mind even in this difficult situation, and maintain samahita for both the situations. But since it is not taught, this place is toxic, and they go to another place. That place is toxic, they go to another place.
But they have no tolerance. The young people nowadays, they have no tolerance, so they don't tolerate nonsense. In their eyes, and I mean, even in the medical field, they say we want this, we are not giving overtime, we want extra overtime, all this. If you're not giving, bye-bye.
Yeah,
So
no, I
that's the
mean,
young people.
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, now he was talking about people who are mindful, who are practicing mindfulness in workplaces. They leave workplaces. And they don't realize why they leave. Because they start seeing two alternatives to live. You take the suffering as a pleasure, or you see suffering as suffering. When you're mindful, you see suffering as suffering. And since they are not taught to see suffering as suffering, since they are being taught to be mindful to increase their labor efficiency, they see this place is bad and they go to another place. And it becomes a problem. And even in school, they are teaching mindfulness in kids. And if they at least should not give it to kids, but the teacher should know where it should be directed. This is why Buddha said, noble friend, practice is in 100% in the hand of the noble friend. So if the person teaching is not a noble friend means one who takes you to Nibbana, good luck.
I was just adding it to that. Just
But let it get recorded.
Sorry, Swami Maharaj. I was just saying, it just goes with the scope thing that you mentioned earlier. Especially my own experience, I definitely felt like I was under the wrong scope, like completely, until like fully committed to the practice under your scope. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Ante, I have a question.
Yes.
You didn't touch on Chittanupassana, because earlier you said, well, you had to be guided by a teacher or some such thing. That's one part. The other part I wanted to say was that when we are doing mindfulness of the breath, when it gets very fine, and we are still, we are still looking at that. Sometimes for me, my personally, it goes into like a samatha, because it's so fine and you can't see characteristics or anything. So it becomes like a samatha, and then the concentration gets, and then so is that a problem?
I'll answer the second part first. And before that, Chatu, I mean, if I'm taking long time, because this will go till, anyway, time is up anyway. We have already done, yeah. You can start your practice, Chatu, now.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, Theruvan Saranai. And don't worry about whether you are in samatha or not. Definitely you are not in samatha, because you know that you are going into concentration. Because you think that you are going into samatha. Those who are going into samatha, they don't know that they are in samatha. That very knowing is taking you away from samatha. So getting concentrated is fine. There's nothing wrong in it. But getting sucked by is what is dangerous. So you're not getting sucked by that because you know it.
Yes, but I know that like when you are the concentration developing, it's like going down an elevator. You know one thing? It's like going down an elevator, slow motion.
Yeah. We'll talk to this.
I thought they had gone out of one day. I thought they had gone now.
It is getting recorded.
Sorry. Okay, so no, it's like going down an elevator in slow motion, and you're going, then you're being taken away from, it's another world. But I am because I'm mindful, I know it, but then suddenly with all that you get drowsy, like what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whatever happens, you know, which means you are mindful. Doesn't matter. You are aware of that as well. You're aware of that as well. That definitely happens. Sometimes it takes over, and then we don't know what has been going on. But since we have been mindful before that, since we are mindful after that, then gradually we will be able to crack the middle. So this is where that will happen when you do it over and over again, which we call Bahulikata. So that is the second part. The first part is Chittanupassana. Chittanupassana, what I said was, I have no time to go into detail. But if you are really interested, I have done about 7 or 8 talks about it, and it is in our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search for Samahita, SAMAHITHA, you will have go to playlist, and there are a lot of talks, and of that there will have one for Satipatthana Sutta. In Satipatthana Sutta there are 85 talks, and of those 85 you will find Chittanupassana ones, and all the Anupassanas, everything, the entire Satipatthana Sutta has been discussed in those talks.
I just followed the foundation.
Yeah, but it's very concise. But I mean,
I'm not pushing you to go through that, but we have discussed in detail with the practice. That's what I want to say. So since we have taken half an hour more, is anyone having any question? If not, we can conclude. Right. Since no one is having question, we can conclude. And how do we conclude? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining, and hope I was able to add at least little bit to your practice. And my last request is keep the mindfulness to the fore, keeping the body as your focal point. Teruvan Saranai. Teruvan Saranai.